Councillor Harrison.
Your Worship, could I move to delay this until after we meet with the LC and ask staff to set up that meeting sometime in January?
For the motion, we need a date.
Okay, till after we meet with the LC.
I heard that. Can we? Do we have any estimate of when we could possibly meet with the?
January, Your Worship, is when they've indicated, and even that, I don't expect it'll be the entire panel. I think it will just be Martin Collins and one representative from the panel.
Okay, my date would be the end of February then.
Could we select a development and planning date in February? Early February? And,
yes, we can do that, but this will come forward also, Your Worship, so you'll have to defer it.
right. Date would that be?
February 18th.
We can defer it here as well. Second, for the deferral, Councillor Eliason. All in favor of the deferral? Any opposed? It's carried. Next we have item 4.3, zoning 872, City of Salmon Arm.
Moved by Councillor Idzan, second by Councillor Kentel, that the Development and Planning Services Committee recommend to Council that a bylaw be prepared, adoption of which would amend zoning bylaw 2303 by rezoning Lot 2, Plan KAP 63581 from P2 Airport Zone to A2 Rural Holding Zone, and that final approval be withheld subject to the following. Number 1, approval of the Ministry of Transportation. Number 2, dedication of the 2.44 meter wide strip of land along 20th Avenue Southeast. And number 3, registration of a covenant prohibiting the following A2 zone uses: agriculture, equestrian facility, kennel, and silviculture.
On a previous meeting when this came up, I stepped out because I had indicated a slight interest in the property, but that is no longer the case. So what stepped over? Councillor Flynn. Oh, what? Perhaps odd development services. Split motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject property is city-owned property at 5230 20th Avenue Southeast. The application is to rezone the property from P2 to A2 as one step in order to facilitate its sale. The property is zoned currently zoned P2, and I understand it was left over from the airport property when the golf course was subdivided from that. The OC designates the green area as acreage reserve, and the property is not in the ALR. The proposed A2 zoning is consistent with the acreage reserve zone and is consistent with the uses nearby, which are predominantly rural residential parcels. Historically, there's been some discussion about selling this piece of land going back a number of years. And as mentioned, in order to facilitate that sale, it's best that it be rezoned to A2 instead of keeping the existing P2 zone, which basically allows airport uses. In looking at the property and looking at its location, in terms of the zone and what that permits, the proposed A2 zone, and the property's location adjacent to the golf course, staff are recommending a number of things. One is to register a covenant on reading which would restrict a number of new zones, that being agriculture, equestrian facility, campsite, kennel, and silviculture. Or dealing with uses, and then secondly, tree removal as well. The property is heavily treed, and by restricting agriculture and silviculture, the property could not be clear-cut. Properties such as this, under the city's tree bylaw, essentially 5% can be removed annually, and removal can occur for development of the property, in this case, city dwellings, buildings, septic fielding. But by limiting agriculture and silviculture, that would, minimize the potential for tree removal. The other point would be that it's currently not serviced. It's not serviced with city water. prospective purchaser would have to draw and approve quantity of water. City water is a fair distance away. Prospective purchaser would have to provide a site sewage disposal system, as well as deal with on-site drainage. Wouldn't be a problem in this rural location. Property is buffered by about 15 meters of trees existing on the golf course property at the south end, and up to about 55 to 70 meters on the north end. Staff are supportive of the rezoning to 82. And further to that, if council is interested in the covenant, that is written into the motion. And the next step further to that, in leading to the disposal or sale, that would occur in terms of community charter requirements.
Thank you. Councillor Finn.
Yeah, my question was just buffer, as you said, 15 meters, so about 45 feet of this, close to 150 feet.
Yeah, 15 to 70 meters on the golf course property.
Okay, so we wouldn't need any covenant that kind of restricts any tree removal along that. We couldn't build a buffer in along that golf course side with regards to tree removal.
Staff had considered that, whether we needed a specific tree removal covenant area to restrict tree removal on the subject property. And based on, I guess, our suggestions to limit agricultural use and silviculture, and then having this existing buffer on the golf course property is not recommended. There's more cost involved in that as well. That actually would have to be surveyed to identify tree buffer area on the subject property.
So basically, cost was the reason not to do that, and then secondly, with the buffer that's there on the golf course property, you're not really concerned if somebody did build kind of right on that lot line and cut some trees down for a house site on that lot line.
May deal with it. I guess the cost of the covenant wasn't, there was a cost to that. However, I think in this area, that isn't necessary. And I guess the other thing is that it essentially encumbers the property and starts restricting where a house can be placed on the subject property as well.
Well, I'm in full support and say thank you for bringing this forward.
Anything further? All in favor? No. Councillor Lyson.
There was some talk about disposal of land and how we would dispose of it in terms of sales. Is that appropriate to speak about that at this point, Your Worship?
I think right now we're speaking to the rezoning, although the rezoning is
For sale.
so that we can sell it, so sure.
What's our normal process, Your Worship, for disposing of city property? Would it be listing? Would it be an auction? Would it be a sealed bid system?
Your Worship,
Maybe that part of the discussion isn't appropriate at this point. Administrator.
probably, Your Worship, not appropriate at this time.
Go on the camera and talk about it.
We may. Anything further to the rezoning? All in favor? Carried. Administrator.
Have a motion to go in, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Cannon, second by Councillor Flynn, that pursuant to Section 91 of the Community Charter, the Development and Planning Services may move in camera.
All in favor?